the United States of America is all in. Still, in times of great change and uncertainty, the future can seem unsettling. Across a vast ocean, it's impossible to know what lies beyond the horizon. But if this vast region and its people teach us anything, it's the yearning for liberty and progress will not be denied. It's why women in this country demanded that their voices be heard, making Australia the first nation to let women vote and run for parliament and one day become prime minister. It's why the people took to the streets from Delhi to Seoul, from Manila to Jakarta to throw off colonialism and dictatorship and built some of the world's largest democracies. That's why a soldier in a watchtower along the DMZ defends a free people in the South, and why a man from the North risks his life to escape across the border. Why soldiers in blue helmets keep the peace in a new nation, and why women of courage go into brothels to save young girls from modern-day slavery, which must come to an end. It's why men of peace in saffron robes face beatings and bullets, and why every day, from some of the world's largest cities to dusty rural towns, in small acts of courage the world may never see, a student posts a blog, a citizen signs a charter, an activist remains unbowed, imprisoned in his home, just to have the same rights that we cherish here today. Men and women like these know what the world must never forget. The currents of history may ebb and flow, but over time they move decidedly, decisively, in a single direction. History is on the side of the free. Free societies, free governments, free economies, free people. And the future belongs to those who stand firm for those ideals in this region and around the world. This is the story of the alliance we celebrate today. This is the essence of America's leadership. It is the essence of our partnership. This is the work we will carry on together for the security and prosperity and dignity of all people. So God bless Australia, God bless America, and God bless the friendship between our two peoples. Thank you very much.
He warned us months ago all they needed was a climate of fear and the long arm of the law. Well, now the International Monetary Fund is talking about a high-speed economic train crash that will see, this is them, unemployment, debt and bankruptcies soar more suddenly than ever before. I'm not an alarmist, I'm sorry, and I'm a super optimist, but make no mistake, we are in serious territory. The figures should have us marching in the streets to offset the government shutdown of the economy. We are spending an estimated 10.6% of GDP, 10.6%. This is more than anything proposed by any other developing or developed nation. It's double that of Canada, more than triple that of Britain. India's total support is 0.7% of GDP, ours 10.6%. How in anybody's name is this money going to be repaid? And we've not yet calculated the cost of jobs lost forever, businesses closed which will never open again, a looming mental health crisis as people struggle to silently cope, and then the cost of family violence, crime and drug abuse. The Prime Minister is going to have a tough task defending this spending, doubling unemployment benefits, fully funding childcare. On JobKeeper, a casual who was on $200 a week now gets through JobKeeper $750. Hello, it's Christmas and New Year all wrapped in one. It's hard to get your head around the political troubles ahead. But can you imagine this in an election campaign? The Rudd and Gillard government spent $51 billion during the GFC in 1 year, 1.8% of the size of the Australian economy. The coronavirus response will cost an estimated 3.3% of our GDP this year and 6.1% next year. Or put another way, the Rudd and Gillard government spent on average about $2,900 per person in today's dollars to keep the economy afloat. The Morrison government's pledges so far amount to almost $8,000 per person. There have been 106 deaths, but our outlays are greater than the combined federal government spending on education, defence, interest on public debt, transport and communication, public order and safety, and housing and community amenities. And then there are over 200,000 businesses with delayed mortgage payments of $160 billion. Well, one thing can give us comfort. There are people like this young man, Adam Crichton, the economics editor at The Australian, an award-winning journalist. He's written for The Economist and The Wall Street Journal. He's worked at the Reserve Bank of Australia. He's got a Bachelor of Economics with first-class honours from the University of New South Wales and a Master of Philosophy in Economics from the prestigious Balliol College at Oxford University. And he'll be joining me every week. One of these people who knows his stuff to tell it as it is. And Adam's with us. He joins us from the studio in Sydney. Adam, good evening and thank you for your time.
Good evening, Alan. Great to be here.
Can I just take you a statement that you made recently? You said, not in a century have we had a nation become so poor so quickly. 30+ billion. It'd be better off in the hands of the worker, wouldn't it?
Yeah, look, it certainly would be. Those $32 billion could be spent on goods and services that workers actually want, rather than siphoned off to fund managers in Sydney and Melbourne. It's an extraordinary industry support. It costs a fortune, which forces all other taxes to be much higher. It's a policy disaster, but no one says it.
Yes, just to amplify the point that Adam has made, 32 billion is taken out in fees and 36 billion a year is the cost to the taxpayer of the superannuation concessional tax payments. So just before you go, because we will resume this discussion in later weeks, but should the superannuation compulsory guarantee go to 12%?
Oh, look, it certainly should not. That's what the Henry Review said. I'm fairly confident that's what the Retirement Review will also say. That's what the government should do. It really must be stopped. And, you know, what we need to do is make that 9.5% voluntary so the worker can go to his boss and say, look, I'd like a 10% pay rise. Of course, the boss doesn't care. He doesn't care whether it's paid as wages or super. And that would also be fantastic for the economy as well. You know, a huge boost to retail spending and many other things.
And, of course, where are we heading, Adam? Because you made this very valid point. In a couple of years' time, the superannuation funds will own 20% of all listed companies.
That's right.
This gives them tremendous power over public policy.
No, extraordinary. And you'd be very naive to think that the trustees of those massive funds will not vote with political considerations in mind. And that should be a real concern in particular for a coalition government which is facing up against industry funds.
Yes, I mean, at this time when the poor worker just wants a bit of money in his pocket, when it's almost impossible to find a deposit on a home, when the young person's got to pay his HECS fee, then he's got to pay his rent, then he's got to save 10% or 20% on a deposit. It'd be nice to actually keep the money that he's earning if, in fact, he's lucky enough to get a job.
No, that's right, Alan. The case is overwhelming, but sadly, very few people spout what is in the public interest. It's basically left to journalists, basically, who don't have a fish to fry in this superannuation debate. And I think you've been great on this issue. And I just wish more journalists would analyse the situation properly and tell people the truth.
Work it out is breaking down the industry pathway and how many above those 3/4 of the working public might earn 100,000 or 92,000 or 110,000 or 115,000 as a corporate register, a district register, 120 grand. Figure out the industry pathway and break down the percentages they play with while they fail to direct anything because nobody's going their way and never could. So philandry kicks in. And sexual harassment, something they don't have. They don't have sex. So question, what is frigid interaction with the lonely? Cipher extortion. Cipher extortion. Or departmental. 51, 41, 21.
RMDY.
For example, South train girls on the island of Lesbos, hence the word lesbian.
Hey, let these dumb motherfuckers know.
For example, word lesbian.
I don't imagine the answer is on those second-rate shoes, Clary.
One back on the track of the
Yeah.